of delegations, so unfortunately we have to kind of take them in order here. So before us now is subdivision file S22-2957 on Pioneer Road, and if we could have a resolution to move into public hearing.
Resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and a public hearing be open for S22-2957.
Madam Mover, please. Councillor Spicer, Councillor Horwath seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So Femi, if you could take us through this subdivision application, please.
This is a subdivision application at 73073 Pioneer Road, road number 313200. The intent is to create 12 proposed lots of varying sizes between 4.01 acre to 4.22 acre within the AR agricultural residential zoning district. Proposer will also create an internal road network. That's a map that shows the subject site and the surrounding area. That's the applicant's subdivision map as submitted to RTD. These are the lots that have been proposed 1 to 12 in terms of the lot sizes and the lot area. These are the requirements in the AR zone. In the AR zone, the requirement is 4 acres in size and 198 feet in terms of the site width. And the applicant meets all the requirements as shown on the table. RPD analysis. Proposal aligns with policy 4.355 in that the proposed internal roads network is well integrated with existing municipal public road in the area. Subject proposal will also will be connected to existing municipal services in the area. RPD recommends approval with conditions. 6 conditions have been listed as shown on the screen. Thanks. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any questions from council members to the planner? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so is the applicant in the audience this evening?
I'm here.
If you want to come forward, and you can use the podium or the chair, it doesn't matter.
Well, I'll sit again. I did just get up and move. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having us here. I'm here on behalf of and in support of the proposed subdivision of 73073. I'm Allison Drieger, and I'm a professional planner by trade. I've worked extensively with subdivisions and development in Southeast Manitoba for about the past 20 years. I've been involved in this process, in the subdivision process from the provincial side, working for community planning in Beausejour and Steinbach offices, and as well from the developer perspective. Also here in support of the proposal, I believe the registered owners were supposed to be attending virtually, and the future developer. The property is located along Pioneer Road. It's a 55-acre parcel that's an anomaly in that it's the largest and widest property along Pioneer Road. The property is pivotal in the future development of the area, as well as in creating good design and allowing the area to develop logically. The area to the north, around Notarini Road and Willow Way, are already developed into a series of 4-acre lots. The majority of the lots along Pioneer Road are already split off into 4 to 5-acre lots with a larger residual portion. This subdivision creates a series of 4-acre lots that comply with the Manitoba subdivision regulations, the Red River Planning District Development Plan, and the overall composition of the area. The large lots maintain the rural character in the area and are in keeping with the type and style of development that exists. Getting the subdivision to this point has been a long process. Prior to beginning the subdivision process, we began before Christmas talking to community planning, Larissa Svensson at community planning. We also talked to Sue Sutherland at the Arm of St. Clements, Elaine Gower from Manitoba Agriculture, Karen Tabes from Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation, Santan Singh from Red River Planning District, and Femi from Planning District as well. Based on these discussions, we did change up our proposal based on what the feedback that we heard. We added in the road stubs that go to the north and the south that would allow for an internal road system. We revised the subdivision plan to make sure that all of the lots met the 4-acre minimum for the area. And this brought the subdivision into compliance, and that means that no variations would be required. We know that sometimes change can be hard, so prior to submitting our subdivision application, we did actually reach out to the nearby property owners. On April 8th, I visited the adjacent properties and talked to them if they were home or left a letter. The letter indicated our intent and our desire to work with the surrounding property owners. We firmly believe this development will allow other properties to develop. It will increase the adjacent property values, it will bring much needed residential development to the area, increase the RM tax base, result in the creation of a complete community, and allow for logical infill development. This is a unique area where the river lots meet up with the mile system, so it has some challenges for development. The long river lots are also challenging for agricultural use and challenging to develop. We believe that we are the key to creating a vibrant, livable, rural lifestyle community. After our initial letter, we did hear back from a couple of property owners. The input we had was mixed. Some had concerns and questions. We've heard from some landowners who welcome the potential opportunity to develop. We also heard from people that are interested to moving to the RM of St. Clements and have expressed interest in the lots already. We also met with a neighboring property owner and toured the property, discussed some potential options to buffer the existing residents, such as tree planting and landscaping. The subdivision as proposed would still mean that any new house would be in excess of 300 feet from any existing house around there, so there would still be a 300-foot buffer between them. These separations mean that the rural character would be maintained. Another concern that was identified was traffic. The proposed subdivision also includes the development of the road to the east. This means that the traffic will be diverted and result in a minimal traffic increase to the area, as many lots will use the service road rather than to use existing Pioneer Road. The development of the concerns, a lot of the concerns can also be addressed during the subdivision. We heard one potential concern about water pooling. As a condition of subdivision, an engineered drainage plan will be required. An engineered Manitoba Conservation requires that the pre-development runoff rates are the same as the post-development. So there will be no excess water coming off of the site. It all has to be maintained on site, and the post-runoff rates have to match the pre-development runoff rates. We'd also have to obtain a water rights license from the province. Any concerns with the septic fields? Septic fields have to be installed in compliance with Manitoba Conservation on-site water and wastewater management regulation. And the large lots are characteristic of what's there and maintain the existing use. We have shown our willingness to work with adjacent landowners and would like to continue to work with them and create a development that won't impact lives. This could involve the inclusion of landscaping that will buffer the development, obtaining engineered drainage plan, entering a development agreement, and the development of the Eastern Road allowance. The proposed subdivision is in keeping with the style, scape, and size of the lots. It requires no variations, maintains the rural character, and continues with the types of development that currently exist to the north. The subdivision complies with all the relevant regulations, from the subdivision regulations, the development plans, zoning bylaw. So in their report, FEMI adequately summarized it and say that the subdivision does comply with the development plan and can be considered for approval. We're here tonight. We want to express our willingness to work with council, to work with landowners, and to create a development that will bolster the community, preserve the neighbors' quality of life. So we're here to answer any questions or to respond to any questions from council.
Okay, thank you for that, Allison. I'm going to ask Councillor if you now have any questions for yourself.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Speaking to some of the landowners in that area there, they're concerned, and I think you've identified it, was that they're worried about the drainage problem there, the runoff and that, because of the way the land is, and it's not, if the water would come in there, how it's going to flow. So that's one of the biggest concerns there. So I guess the reinsurance of that, and I'm on council here that I've only been here for a short while, that I realize that it has to get approved by, so it has to work. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest concerns.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions for the developer at this point? Councillor Sutherland?
Yeah, there was concerns about traffic, but as you say, like this road is going to be built to the east,
Yes.
also to allow another route.
Yes.
And that will be done at the same time as the subdivisions put in?
Yes.
The Exeter, okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a few names on my list here, and I know that there's at least one, maybe two people that are on Zoom that may want to speak. But the first name I have on my list is Danielle Iwaka.
I don't speak for Danielle, I'm her partner.
Oh, okay.
So I have lots of problems with this. Let's
Do you
just
want to
start.
state your name for the record? please?
Calvin Stimson.
Thank you.
Okay, so I suppose how I'm gonna start with the problems that I have with what's going on here, I'll start with what she just finished saying. She's talking about developments that happen to the north. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that area. This wasn't a development that was just kind of put in. This was a road system that was put in. Totally separate. What they're planning on doing is putting a development of additional 12 houses in our backyards. This is an immediate problem. This takes out privacy. I would not have bought this house that we just purchased had I known this was gonna have 12 extra neighbors right there. I moved out to be rural, not rural suburbia,
Yes.
not
we all did.
any of
Well,
this.
excuse me,
Just saying.
everyone will have an opportunity to speak.
Oh, wait, sorry.
It's completely improper. It throws off the whole dynamics of the neighborhood. And you know what? I did purchase this house knowing full well that eventually there's gonna be some new houses. But do you know where I expected them to be? Directly across the street from us, not in our backyard. Why? Because it matches the dynamic of how every road in that area works. There isn't one spot where it does that. What, like, it's not justifiable. I can't even, the first year, like, and I really hope that this is attacked as or at least considered, not as a financial thing, but how we want to keep this area. And to be completely honest, I'm slightly concerned based off of the last decision was made. It seems like we're chasing money more than what the RM should represent to everybody here. This isn't Winnipeg, this isn't a Sage Creek, this isn't a Ridgewood West. It's rural. Rural should be rural. Yes, the lots are bigger, I get it, that's great. But why do I have to have neighbors, or anybody for that matter, if they move out to be rural, on all sides? Directly behind me. It's incorrect. There's problems that I'm gonna have with this in the future. I know that I'm gonna have grave effects from this, but it takes away from everything that I want. I would have went with St. Boniface. Why?
Okay, I have a couple more names here, and I'm sorry I can't read a couple of them. I believe it might be Clinton Iwaka.
No, Curtis.
Curtis?
I'm owner with my daughter Danielle and Calvin, her partner.
Okay.
And I do have one question to ask the developer. Is the road going to be built to the east immediately or after the houses are being finished? When is that road going to be built? And who's paying for that? Is the developer or the RM? When is this time frame going to
Excuse
happen?
me? Excuse me?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You have to direct your questions to the chair, and
Okay.
normally what we do is I will have everybody speak, and any questions that are asked, the developer will have an opportunity once everybody has spoken to answer some of those questions.
Sure, okay, that's my
Okay.
question. When will this?
When will the
Will the road be built after the houses or
And who is,
before?
and who is paying for it?
Exactly.
I can tell you the developer will be paying for the road.
And when will the road be built?
That is entirely up to them.
Okay, and the other thing is the whole thing about the Pioneer Road. This spring, the first year we witnessed what it looked like, and we sent pictures. There was potholes for a good 3 weeks. People were driving on the shoulder already, and you're adding 12 more houses, and they're saying they're gonna be using the east. Well, which ones are gonna be using the east is hard to say how far, because going west towards the city always makes sense to go west, not east. I'm not gonna go another, how many, quarter mile. I'm gonna go west with the gas prices being $2 a liter. I'm going the cheapest and fastest route. So So that east road is not going to alleviate much traffic, 4 houses at best, if that. So that's an issue. And then Pioneer Road is, the next step is you're urbanizing rural area. Next thing you'll want is paved road, and that ain't far away, because I seen that road. You guys threw a little bit of gravel on it, I guess, in the last couple of weeks, but that road is terrible. And you're adding that much more, plus all the construction trucks to build those houses. That's a lot of concrete going down those roads and everything else. What's that, or Pioneer Road, what's gonna be left of Pioneer Road? Are the developers gonna pick up the bill to repair Pioneer Road? Is that part of the agreement? And there's always a concern about fresh water. You know, this year we got plenty, but we went through 2-3 droughts in a row in this part of the country. Foundations cracking, there was a shortage of, the water was a big concern. Septic fields, everything. Fresh water is gonna be a concern in the upcoming years. Maybe this year it's okay now, but in the upcoming years there will be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The next name I have on my list is Roger Hominick.
Yes, I concur with what he just said. And my biggest problem here is 12 new wells across the street from me. How is that going to affect my own well? That's my biggest concern.
Thank you for that, Roger. Michael Consticay?
Chomsky.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I had submitted, prior to me coming here today, I submitted emails and letters of interest. I just wanted to, Robert, to acknowledge that he had received and had a chance to read those letters, as well as Debbie had sent me.
Well, I can tell you, and we don't have it up on the screen, but every letter that came in, and I believe there was about almost 10, every member of council got a copy of them, and they have been entered into the public record, so we all do have them. I read them all on the weekend, and I know that there were some concerns, so if you just want to go
Okay, I
ahead.
appreciate that. I just wanted you to acknowledge that you had received my letters.
Yes, we all did receive them
okay,
in our
thank you.
meeting
So
packages.
I don't really probably have to go through it again with all of you. So I've shared those same comments with the residents, my neighbors, a lot of them which I just got to know now. I've lived at Pioneer Road for 25 years and never really got to meet my neighbors because we're out there because it's nice and quiet and we want the seclusion of that. But now with this development going, and it's going to turn it into, as my neighbor Calvin here said, you know, an urban area, not a suburban area or, countryside living as we call it. I had to go, and see what the residents, my neighbors thought about this. I know I didn't really want it coming, but I went and I met 20 of the 27 residents that live on my side of the road, of Pioneer Road, and there was not a single individual that I personally spoke to that had anything good to say and supported this. Now, some of those individuals, they're not here because they're frail, they're old, they've had other commitments, but if it was a petition that you wanted from the people on Pioneer Road who are for or against this, I could easily provide that. But I can see that this process is being somewhat fast-tracked, I would say it was, because I was in contact with the planning board at earlier stages, first with Santan, and then secondarily with Femi, and I was asking them, because from the previous owner of the house, I knew this was coming. I wanted to know when the application would be made so that I had time to prepare myself for meeting that we're going to be having here today. And I work as a guide in the summertime, so I'm away for a month and a half out of the year. So I tried to do as much as I could and overloaded everybody's email. I'm sure by May 24th was when I left. But it was for a reason, because I wasn't going to be here. I actually had to take time off to come here today to this meeting. So on the 24th of May, there was no indication that this application had even been made, and poof, here we are like 3 weeks later, and we're already having a hearing on it. So there's things going on here that are fast-tracking this process, either that's the great work of the developer or collusion or whatever you want to call it between the various parties. fast track this thing along. And I have a question that you can put into the record here for the developer. You made comments that some people had concerns about water pooling, and it was something specifically that I acknowledged in my letter. Is it typical for that, my information of the letters that I would send to you to be shared with the developer prior to a meeting like this? Because it was very coincidental that you used those exact words with water pooling. It's because in my letter to you, I had, and to Femi and the planning board, I had a lot of concerns with drainage issues and well issues, as Curtis had acknowledged here. Again, we've had water shortages. We've had people had to drill new wells, 3 times the depth of our original wells that we had dug. Last year I had water shortages, and it may not be a big deal, but when I have to go and drill a new well because I run out of water, there's nobody, I can't come to the council and complain that, oh, I ran out of water and poor Mike Chomsky got to dig a new well. Nobody's going to do a study or anything like that. I'm pretty much on my own. But when you look at the development that's happened in the Goodmanson subdivision with the 60-some lots that have gone in up north of us by Kevin Madriga was one of the developers that put in a bunch of new lots. I forget the name of the road it is, but it's being heavily developed up there. And since that time, there's really been no study or survey of the local residents to get a feel for what's happening with their water system. Everybody just assumes from a simple provincial model that everything's going to be okay. Well, I can tell you with our own experiences, it's not okay. We're starting to see individuals. I only talked to 20 people, and I had 4 people that had water issues, shortages, ones that had to drill new wells. Jim Stinson here had to go to 300 feet to get a well to get appropriate capacity for his well. You know, we should be studying something like this and looking at the environment people, not just getting them to rubber stamp something before we drill 12 new wells and put the onus on me, Mike Chomsky, when my well goes dry and I just have to drill a new one. So I would like there to be some more in-depth study or a survey done in the neighborhood before we fast track and allow that many new wells to go into, because it's going to affect all the local residents that are around us. We've had people that have lived on that road for 45 years, and they've seen considerable amounts of change with the water drainage issues like that have resulted from the new houses that have been in that property. You know, in short, another area, if I could, Femi, can I get you to pull up that planning diagram that shows all the lots on Pioneer Road? That one there. Oh, back up. If you look at that diagram on the road there, you can see that that's an angular chunk of land, as the developer, I forget what her name was, Allison, had indicated. It's kind of a blank space in the middle of everything, but you look at all the lots to the north above that, everybody accesses their properties from Pioneer Road. Nobody's putting a development road down the center of it and going deep into the property. And the AR, agriculture restricted 4-acre zoning, I think is being exploited in this context by putting that road in there and allowing that type of development. It's completely changing the rhythm, look, whatever you want to call it. All the lots are angular, narrow lots, and now we're going to go in there and put in a bunch of square lots with this development road down this there. I just don't believe that was the intent of developers when they were looking at that way back in the day, when they allowed for lots to be subdivided down to as low as 4 acres. So the size of those lots should have been more consistent, or I should say the plan of those lots and shape of them should be more consistent. They should all have road access off of Pioneer Road, not with some road going down the center. In one of my reports too, I'd also included a diagram where I did some drone footage in the springtime here showing the water runoff, and there's direct water flow from the north, or I should say the northeast corner of that subdivision that goes directly to Cooks Creek. And I know all of you have seen that picture on there. I want that to be highlighted when we show this to the people who regulate water and drainage and all that, because if they don't see what's happening locally in the area, this is actual footage taken recently, and, you know, short of that, if they go in there and they say, oh yeah, this area looks like it's pretty good, they got their drainage report, they rubber stamp it, things go through. Well, that's not the case here. We got water going directly from that creek, showing a flow rate across the next farmer field, zone A40, or A40, I believe, right directly to Cook's Creek. So there are drainage issues as well. So there's a lot of bad karma in these fields here, and things that have to be looked at before we rubber stamp this and push this through any further. I'm just going to quickly look at my notes here, see if there's anything that I've missed. Yeah, the other thing was that, she said that they had been, this was a long process for them, you know, looking at developing this property, starting in December, she said, meetings with Santan Singh, and talking about this proposal. How come nobody, when I had been in communication with Santan Singh at the very early stages, and had been asking for, you know, this to, for information on this, everybody pretended like this was not even happening. So that's basically telling me that at that time, he wasn't giving me the full feedback as to the activity that was happening in the background with this planning process. So I'm a little disappointed with the planning board and not sharing that information with me.
Have you more to say? I was just going to get our CAO to give a little explanation on what you just said about
that's
somebody doing something that they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah, or sharing information, or what, not getting back to me. And I had actually, you know, specifically emailed Santana and said, you know, I want to know the day that anybody makes the formal application, puts it on your desk. I want to know when that happens. And nothing happened until Danielle had sent me an email to my fishing gloves where I'm working at that I'm going to come back to this meeting because the application happened. So, anyways.
Okay, so can I address those comments? You made a few comments.
Absolutely.
Let me address the first one.
Yeah.
Your emails and your information that you provided to the RM as part of the Planning Act is just, if I could just step back a little bit here.
Yeah.
The municipality is governed by regulation from the province of Manitoba under the Planning Act. Under that act, it tells us how things are to be done, especially these kinds of public hearings. And with that, when the public hearing is held, right before the public hearing is published, it's published on our agenda. That information of all the letters and information that was sent over as opposition, in support, or any other information that was provided is put on the public agenda for everyone to see.
Okay, fair enough. Not it.
That's, so your email that you said that was available to the developer to be able to respond to as part of the fair judicial process that this entire system is. As well, when an applicant, just like if you were contemplating doing some work on your property, you're not obligated to share with anybody, and for the protection of privacy, the Red River Planning District, when they receive those applications, they're not obligated to share until it hits a certain criteria. So to say to Santan Singh or anybody at the Red River Planning that they must tell you what your neighbors are doing, that doesn't work that way, because they're governed by legislation. And there's privacy and protection and legislation on how planning and development applications. Just like if you're going to build a deck or a garage, when you go to get a change done, then when it goes into the proper process, there's requirements for how many days and how many things that need to happen. Along with that, I'm going to ask Femi to also later on explain about Bill 37, which is additional legislation the province of Manitoba has put in place that governs the municipalities and Red River Planning in the entire province of Manitoba. This new legislation the province of Manitoba has passed provides specific deadlines for taking applications, for reviewing applications, for approving applications, and for what reason you can turn down applications. And it allows for the applicants, for them to have a level of protection to be able to then take the municipality to the municipal board if they don't follow within those rules. Those are all things that the municipality must adhere to. So just so that I want you to understand, nothing has ever been, if it was private information, then it's private information, but then you can't put it on the public agenda and can't discuss it as part of a public hearing. A public hearing has rules that we must all govern under.
I have to ask a question. So
I understand that.
So now.
No,
Yeah.
and my job is to help explain that. I'm not,
Yeah.
if I'm sounding like I'm upset, I'm not.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just gonna add in, I mean, if you look at all the comments, because when the application is formally made at Red River Planning, they have to circulate it to various government agencies, along with the municipality and whoever else they see it fit to be circulated to. And most of the provincial departments do reply to the application. And I'm just looking, you had concerns about the drainage and things like that, and one of the comments here from Manitoba Environment, Climate and Parks. In response to the review request, drainage and water rights licensing requires the following for subdivisions creating new lots. Subdivision development drainage plan, engineered design, engineered site plan requirement. Obtain a water rights license to construct water control works. Submit a copy of a valid water rights license to the approving authority. So they're not just gonna go in there and be able to do what they think is right. It all has to be approved by the province of Manitoba.
Does that include wells as well, or like you're talking about surface water? I'm as much concerned about the subsoil water as well, and what department would be involved, or should I really, be looking at too, because...
It would be conservation, but it may be the Office of the Drinking Water.
Manitoba Conservation.
Yeah, yeah. So.
They do those things, and I think it should be clarified when the developer or the developer's representative came and made the presentation that it must match pre-development flows. Just to be clear on that, that means it cannot add any more. That development, the engineered plan has to prove to the province of Manitoba that it isn't adding any more drainage water than it was when it was just raw land.
Correct.
Okay. So that's why it must match pre-development.
And I just want to make sure that all those boxes are checked, because I have a consultant who is very world-wise on well water issues and things like that, and actually his I don't know if he's watching this right now, but that was the Barry and Eller that were on there. He was hopefully going to be watching in our meeting, but he dragged it on there.
They're on there.
Yeah, and we've had long discussions about the concerns of our well water, especially since one of a close friend of mine, a neighbor and friend, resident who I've known for the last 15 years, told me his story about drilling a well. He had been in the RM living there for about 5 years. And then one of the houses, kind of like the new houses in the developments of the Goodmanson subdivision, they were kind of popping up. It didn't used to be nearly as populated 20 years ago as it was now. But 5 years after he moved in, a well was drilled across the road, and a new house that would come in. They met all the appropriate approvals and everything like that. And he went from having perfectly good well water to having sulfated, sour-smelling well water, which made it basically unpotable. He had to put in a fairly extensive filtration system to make his water drinkable again. And those are the risks that we're going to be facing with 12 new wells going in particularly because if we're having the concerns that I had last year where I couldn't run 2 taps at the same time because my flow rate was down so low. Obviously, it was a drier year. We all factored that into it, but it's not going to be the last dry year we had. But if we're having to drill deeper wells to go and get more water at a sustainable rate like Jim Stinson just did here, you have to drill to 330 feet, that increases the risk of hitting a sour gas pocket and affecting everybody's wells in the area. Because once you drill through one stream, it will affect multiple streams that cross-contaminate, even if it's a cased well, according to my consultant who's got like 40 years in the oil industry. Very knowledgeable man. anyways, I won't belay that, but I'm in constant contact with them, and we are going to be taking water samples and studies, and we want to make sure that our water in our adjacent properties maintain the level that we're used to. We've been there for 25 years, and I don't want a whole neighborhood of people coming in that are going to ruin my well water and quality, and it'll have to be at my expense because it was something that was just met the government guidelines, you know. It should be really looked at with the additional development that we've had in the area, that there should be a little bit of more due diligence and prudence going into looking at, you know, where we're at with our well water in the area, and does this really, is there enough well water there to satisfy everybody's needs without causing risk to the existing residents who've been there for all these years.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move on if you have
Thank you.
nothing else, okay?
That's it for now. Maybe I have a question later, but thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure if you'll have another opportunity,
Okay,
but
very good.
we'll go from there. The next name I have on my list is Dave Natchuk.
Yeah, I'm against it, and I concur with the things that were said already, and that, you know, in my estimation, well, I've lived in the area for some 6 to 7 years, and consequently I've seen a lot of changes, and when you look at, you know, the population increase in that area, it's gone up tremendously, and eventually something's going to break, you know, as well problems, drainage problems. You know, you can plan whatever you want, but at the end of the day, something's going to break, you know, and, you know, different places have flooding problems, and when you look at, as an example, going in an airplane, you know, when you fly somewhere, acres under asphalt and under concrete. I mean, that's not where we are, but the point is that when you got houses, you have to displace that water that would normally sink into the ground, you know. We're in a rural area, you know, we wanted to stay rural area, otherwise I guess we'll move up to Churchill, I don't know, and they wouldn't have this problem of subdivisions, but the point is that, you know, we like rural areas, you know what I mean? And it's like the saying goes, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Everything's working well, you know, and so consequently, you know, there's water systems that are going to be affected sometime in the future, whether sewage, eventually, I mean, right now you have to put in, you know, a piping system in Henderson Highway. Well, eventually it's going to probably come this way if all of a sudden it's going to increase, you know, with population. And so consequently, who pays the bill? It's the taxpayer that pays the bill. A lot of us are retired. We can't go and afford to, you know, start, you know, paying a lot more money into different things like that. You know, that's not our problem, you know, but it becomes our problem. And that's what we're concerned about, you know. And what's agriculture should stay agriculture. You know, worldwide we're starting to have a food problem. You know, you read the news. You know, agriculture areas need to stay agriculture, you know, in order to sustain, you know, food supply for the population. You know, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but the point is that's the fact of life, you know. And then with the population density, I mean, it is getting quite heavy. There's speeders going on Pioneer Road, and mind you, in the springtime with the potholes, that was a godsend because it slowed people down. But the point is, people are just hoofing it down Pioneer Road, you know. And so, yeah, and then 12 extra, you know, one little small 40-acre lot, that's a heavy load. And eventually something's going to break. And who's going to pay for it? The landowners next to, you know, the issue. And like I say, I concur with everything that's been said, you know, and hopefully, you know, it helps the council in making their decision because, I mean, you know, we're here to tell us what we feel, you know, and this is what we honestly feel. We're not making things up. This is what we honestly feel.
Okay, thank you for that, Dave. Mary, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't know all about this water and stuff, but I've lived in the city and I've lived in the country. And I don't understand why we have to lose the country. You know, like what he said, we want to live in the country. And yet, tonight I've been listening and you're voting for all these subdivisions. And people are saying to you, our houses aren't the same anymore. Our land isn't the same. Our life isn't the same because you're putting in these subdivisions. And that's the way I feel. We live in the country for a reason. It's quiet. It's nice. It's nice to be able to walk down the gravel road and see ducks and geese in the ditch. It's nice to listen to the cows mooing and even the coyotes howling. And she's saying that it's going to be still rural. It's not. Selkirk's a perfect example of that. People are telling me in Selkirk that there's foxes and deers and everybody running around because the housing development took away the animals' places to live. I was sitting in the Selkirk golf course the other day. I saw a fox running in and out of people's yards. In our yard, we have lots of animals. We have people who watch for the birds. They said that in our area, we have some of the rarest birds in all of Canada. We get more houses. What is it? We're bringing the city into the country? We don't want that. We want to keep country. What's wrong with having a little bit of country? Why do we have to turn everything into a city? And I don't understand why you guys are thinking that, except for that I did hear something about getting more taxes for the municipality. So, but anyway, that's what I'm saying. We want to live in the country. Let us live in the country, not the city.
Thank you for that, Mary. The next name I have is Jim Stinson.
I'll get through this. Madam Mayor, Council, CAO, staff, Devin may see you, and residents of Pioneer Road. My name is Jim Stinson. I live at 73-107 Pioneer Road. My wife and I moved there 32 years ago. The last time I was before council, I spoke on behalf of the residents of this property. I spoke in support of them doing an application to increase for the sale of the things. Because they're good. They're good people. They weren't causing a problem. But this subdivision, in my opinion, is wrong. I realize, council, your hands are tied because of what your CAO said, Section 37 of the Planning Act, the regulations. No matter what you say, yes or no, it can be appealed, and they have the upper finger. But you hold one ace card. You are supporting and listening to your residents. So you're going to have to make a decision how you're going to approach to them. So I've kind of put some things together here that have been said by the people. I don't want to get through it. There are three main zones area that we're talking about here. And this is probably more for a lot of other people. I'm sure you all, please don't think I'm trying to re-educate you, because I'm sure you all know. I know Scott, that's for sure. All CAOs know all about these zones. We have three areas here. First one is A80. That's agricultural general. And then A40, which is kind of funny. Can you bring up that subdivision there, that lot?
I think Deepak has control.
Keep going, keep going. Good, drop her down. Drop her down, down,
Mayor photo.
down. Okay, there. If you go across the road from that subdivision, that's A40. We are, where this subdivision is, AR, agricultural restricted. Now the definition of agricultural restricted, as stated in your policy, is this zone provides for the accommodation of hobby and part-time farming operations. and low-density rural and non-farm residential uses. This hearing relates to a 55-plus acre parcel of property in agricultural restricted zone. And I'd like to stress agricultural. Please leave that picture up. While doing my research, I was informed that AR also included to allow, it was brought forward to allow a farmer who lived in the area that wanted to stay on the land. Now you can subdivide a small parcel of land and you can stay on your farm and sell it. So therefore AR was developed to allow the landowner to stay there. You know, keep the 4-acre parcel. Now I believe this developer is capitalizing on a loophole to slide in this development. This subdivision is not following the spirit of the intention of the first definition of agricultural restricted. And this property is actually a residential subdivision. So I think we have to go back to probably maybe Debbie might have been the only one around in 2009 when this subdivision was, maybe Glenn was too. But, you know, when we did the definitions of these things, what is an AR and what is an A40? Now, low density. If you look at I went to a survey of municipalities across Canada, and it shows the definition is so broad of what is low density rural that there really is none. There was one common denominator, and that was the size. The sizes went from 1 acre up to 50 acres. But the one thing that was the common denominator of the size of the lots was that the decision was made by you guys after listening to the residents. I think maybe council should relook at the designation and follow the original intent of this law to make that an agricultural restricted. As was mentioned before, it's widely known that there is no more arable land being made and the food crisis in the world has only exploded with the wars and the drought throughout the world. This proposed subdivision is at least 50 acres of some of the most productive cropland in Manitoba. Conservatively, 50 acres of barley will produce 5,000 bushels of grain a year. Now I've lived there for 32 years and I think almost every year I've seen a crop go in there. I am 2 lots north of this property, but I also pasture right beside it. In 32 years, this piece of farmland in production, there was over 160,000 bushels of grain. Now this may seem only like 55 acres of highly productive cropland being taken out. But how many other croplands are we going to lose to food production if this subdivision is an example? An example. You allow this and go through, there's another one, there's another one. It's time to say no. When researching the development, I found that, now this is an old one, the RM of St. Clement's bylaw 14/2009, still in effect. I wish it was online, but it isn't. Section, and I quote from that act, that section, 143 sub 1 of the Planning Act of the Province of Manitoba provides as follows. A council may, by bylaw, set the levies to be paid by applicants to compensate the municipality for the capital costs specified in the bylaw that may be incurred by the subdivision of land. So I'll summarize that. That section is, as I find it, very important. It's very important. Applicants to compensate the municipality for the capital costs incurred by the subdivision of land. I believe the mayor mentioned that earlier, so I just bring this forward again. It also states a road levy shall be charged for each additional lot created in excess of 1 lot for those subdivisions that are fronting along a municipal road. The levy would range between $3,000 and $5,000 per lot. on the condition of the road and expected traffic volumes. When I moved there 32 years ago, there were 9 people on that road. Now there's hundreds of them. Now that would mean that all the 10 lots that are proposed in the Pioneer Road would be exempt, because they don't have to pay the road levy, because there's only one on Pioneer Road. So there's only one, because there's already one lot, there's only one that's going to be paying the levy for that $3,000 to $5,000. Well, according to this thing it says.
That's your interpretation, sir. Not
Okay, sorry,
the way it's
okay,
implemented.
but that's where it's written on the act.
That's the way you're.
And I'll ask you for clarification, may I please? I like to be educated.
Their lot levies are determined on the subdivision on all new lots. They're creating 12, they're paying lot levies for 11 of them. That comes in as part of the process, and we've been collecting this way before I came here, way before the previous CAO, and way before that previous CAO.
Okay, then maybe this is the section part that's coming with this. But there is a fee for non-service lots. And for non-service lots, it's $4,250, correct? But there's a breakdown of that. And the breakdown is Capital Improvement Reserve Fund, $2,250. Environment Reserve Fund, $500. Recreation and Cultural Reserve Fund, $500. Road Reserve Fund of $1,000. Yes, there will be 11 lots paying $1,000. But would there not only be one lot paying a road levy because only one fronts onto a municipal road? That's the way it's stated.
That's the way you're interpreting, sir, again.
So if they all have to pay road levy, I think it's great. I applaud it. But now, 11 lots, $11,000. We won't even talk about the other with the road levy. My neighbor just put in a lot, or a road, a frontage road, $15,000. So if you take $50,000, how much is that going to do in that road? And most council here has heard me complain about Pioneer Road. The material, the way it was made. We go to Harvey Fiddler, who was one of the original ones, and the gentleman here, when the road was built, what was built of? The material that road was built with cannot, and now especially when they opened up Wesley Road, that Wesley Road to the north in Goodman subdivision, originally that wasn't supposed to be open, but it got open, and those traffic now come down that way. It's easier to enter on a 44 highway than to cross over 59 highway. That traffic is increased exceptionally. On roadways, roadways shall be classified, it's your quote under your act, roadways shall be classified as either urban or rural. Council determines whether a subdivision is classified as urban and rural. There are specific standards that these roads are to be built to, which I was very pleased to read. It's too bad they weren't in place when Pioneer was built. But it states, all material and specifications indicated in this section shall apply to all subdivisions, or some people using this word condominiums, developments, blah, 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 that connect to the RM infrastructure. Now, I was pleased to hear the developer say this, but what we were presented and what was shown was a sketch supplied by the developer shows the road running down the middle of the proposed development. As most of you are aware, I've always been very cognizant of emergency issues, especially access by fire trucks, ambulances, police, etc. We saw a previous development up there that had a cul-de-sac on it. This is not wide enough for a cul-de-sac at the end. The sketch had no width of the roads, but on the sketch there is an indication of lots being approximately 359 feet. But there is no indication of the road width. The sketch also has a government road allowance at the rear development, which in fact is undeveloped municipal road allowance. I believe it's called Road 44. Mr. X Public Works, I think it may
That's an
be called
extension of
44.
4 Mile Road.
I'm not sure.
That's an extension of 4 Mile Road.
Pardon?
It's an extension of 4 Mile Road.
Yeah, okay, 4 Mile Road, sorry, yeah, 4 Mile Road, yeah. So, but it's not, it's tangled, it's trees, you can't even hardly find your stakes in it. But if they're gonna build that road, this development has zero sketches for residents or emergency vehicles in my personal opinion, it's not safe and shouldn't be allowed. But as we're being told now, and even on the post there, it's not showing that other road. There have been years of drought and years of high water. And you know, I use the word high water, not flooding. We've seen both while we're living there. This property is located approximately 1/4 of a section from the main drainage system to the Cooks Creek drainage area. I think all of you know that water runs through the drainage area. So where is it going to run from that subdivision? It runs to Cooks Creek. Last year when it was dry, the northeast corner of that property, which was mentioned earlier, it had cattails in it in the springtime still, in the summer. The northeast corner, there were cattails there. Yeah, right now I guarantee you there's water there. Because my pasture, which is right butting it to it, is sitting with about that much water in that corner right now. Where's that water running? It's running to the drainage ditch. We graze our horses immediately north of this proposed subdivision. As you're aware, once a home is placed on a property, that prohibits absorption of the water down into the aquifer. The sketch also has a roadway that we had on it, the next one down. There is one more. Keep going. There was one sketch that showed sideway roads. We have no idea what those roads were there for.
One, a little more.
No, not that one. You had one that
Yes,
just,
this is this one. There are two roads, one going this way, one
maybe
going.
it's farther up.
These are the roads you're talking about right here?
Yeah, those roads there. We have no idea what those were, what that was. Maybe that was something planning branch did, but we're just trying to question, like, the sketch in the roadway running the edge of the property, is that for drainage? I couldn't, drainage plan. Maybe that is something that has to come down the way, but a drainage plan, once you build a property, the water does not go down anymore. It was mentioned by a previous developer. The thing, the water will not go down, it's going to run off. Where's this water going to drain to? I already have a pasture that's being flooded. We moved to this property in 1990, partly because of the water quality and quantity. Our well was tested and found to be both and good. Over the years, Pioneer Road and Goodman subdivision exploded with well over 100 homes. 6 years ago, our well started to go dry. We're in the 100-foot range. And we had to have a new well drill. The driller found water about 200 feet. I didn't want him to go any deeper because it was $25 a foot, but it wasn't enough water. He ended up going 305 feet to find the quality and quantity of water sufficient for what we had. I feel I'll be okay, at least for a while. But what about my neighbors? It may be only 11 homes. But will this subdivision be the camel sticking its head into the tent, and further farmland close by will be turned into residential lots? 11 lots mean 11 more septic systems. Yes, I know they have to be tested. Not something I like to cherish next to my horse pasture. A few years ago, due to concerns by urban residents on ponds, you, the council, were forced to put in a bylaw to say that all ponds and pools must be, and it may have been provincially, have to be fenced. How long before some urban lot dweller does not like my electric fencing? There are 3 residents that I know of on Pioneer Road that have livestock. And I'm sure I'm not the only one finding my quality of life being infringed upon. I'm not against development. And I'm not one of these persons saying, not in my backyard. But I moved there for my privacy, for the rural, for the agricultural area. If you move to a rural area, I do not believe you deserve the right to dictate your urban wants on rural residents. Every one of your councillors see people coming out into the rural area and wanting more urban things. How long before you start seeing somebody, I want streetlights, I want paved roads. The increase of small lots on agricultural land increases their voice numbers and depletes mine. How long before my one vote does not count against their 10 or 12? Why are we having this hearing? And I'm just asking this question. If the developer dots all their I's and T's, are you going to be forced to rubber stamp it? Just because it checks all their slots, does it make it right? I don't see where a resident's concerns are taken into account in any of the bylaws or policies. When we moved here in 1990, even our properties was zoned agricultural rural. We had to get permission from council and the planning branch to have our horses. We were told if one neighbor objected to us having horses, then we would not be allowed. Here we have a proposed subdivision, and how many people are opposed to it? Getting to the end. We moved to 73-107 Pioneer Road, St. Clements, in 1990. After weeks of searching for a rural property, we started in Stonewall. And we went all the way from Stonewall, all the way to the south, all the way around to all the way around, and ended up in St. Clements. Why? Because we found the water quality. There were homes that we didn't have the water quality. That just wasn't there. You tried to drink the water, it wasn't there. The privacy. I'm sorry somebody mentioned all the homes were built in the front. I'm one of the original people that were at the back. And Mr. Cheadle here, they put, I have a caveat at the back of their property. It was the privacy. It was the rural setting. It was the agricultural, why we stayed here. Even when I first retired, I worked in the city, when I first retired, I became part of St. Clements. And I believe it. It's an agricultural area. At least our ward was. At that time, we're Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4. But now we are, yes, there are 2 wards in St. Clements. One that is more urban, Ward 1, Councillor Strang, Councillor Glenn, and Scott. Sorry, guys. But we have a rural area, and that is north of 44. Why can we not keep St. Clements the place to be? Is that not our so-called thing? Rural and urban? One of my neighbors, immediately north of this property, as soon as they got word of this subdivision, they listed their property and they sold it and they moved out of the municipality. Don't say that the neighbors are for it or not bad about it. 300 feet, your privacy? I'll tell you what, even though I live in the back there, I wouldn't want to be Gail and Larry with the person beside them roaring their trucks or up and down the noise thing. Let's try and keep that area rural. Now, I believe they sent you an objection to that, but they were against it. They sold it and they out of the municipality. They said, the heck with it. Not that it'll make any much of a difference, but I'd like to ask why this proposed subdivision was not more advertised. We hear all these bylaws for 2 weeks in the paper about the bylaws coming forward. I didn't see any of it. We got a letter from Planning Branch, yes. We got a letter from the developer, which I think was very, very good. I really appreciated that. But there was a little sign put up on the gate post. There's a lot of trees. My wife, she thought it was a no trespassing sign, even though she knew it was there. We really don't know what the zoning is going on, and yet you see the people that came by. And it would have been there, a lot of people, we just don't know about it. I understand this legislation either passed or about to be passed, which is council's decision to be appealed to the provincial board. Therefore, if council wants to listen to their residents, I feel they must make a firm decision and tell the provincial government that we, in the Arm of St. Clements, listen to our residents and turn this subdivision down. By allowing this subdivision, council, you could be opening the floodgates, that there are several other properties close to this one that could then apply and lose more of our quality farmland. A quick survey of the municipality shows that we are not lacking in lots, empty lots up there still. Please leave some quality farmland for what it's intended to. Now, I want to go back to that last bylaw, 14/2009. When we talk about the Coppell casts, and I believe I was clarified, and I thank you very much, Mayor, for saying that any development of those two roads would be by the applicant and built to the qualifications that the municipality and the government states. Now, the financial cost of this subdivision to the municipality far outweighs the benefits. Are you willing to jeopardize the quality of life of your long-term residents? Why would any long-term resident want to stay, and here there's some short-term residents, want to stay in the municipality where the council does not care about what the concerns of the residents are? And I thank you for the thing here. They were good neighbors, and they are good neighbors, but I just believe that this subdivision does not fit that area. And maybe we should, or possibly you should look at having that back down to what is the intent of an AR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Before I go any further, our bylaw for our council meeting states that we are to adjourn by 10 o'clock, and because we're not going to be done by 10 o'clock, we are going to pass a resolution to extend our meeting, so if you just bear with us for a second, we'll keep on going. And I would suggest we make it till 11:30, just in case.
Resolve the meeting be extended to 11:30 p.m.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Strang, seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Your crew over there. They're opposing it over there. Oh, well. Okay, so with that, we can keep on going with our public hearings. So the next name I have is Dar Stinson. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'm kind of thinking Jim pretty much covered it. I sort of gave a couple of hints and said, well, say this and say this.
So for now, you're good?
If I think of something, I'll put my hand up.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the next name I have is Chuck Cheadle. What do you have to say, Mr. Cheadle?
After Jim, I can't say a thing.
Maybe we won't have to go to 11:30.
I've been there longer than him, and I moved out for the same reasons, to get out of the city. And it took my wife 2 years to actually not want to go back to the city. You know,
Besides, she liked it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever. And now, actually, because I'm being old and feeble, I am going to sell here, but I'm not going back to the city. So, and this proposal, I don't know what to say about it, but there's relationships there with the person who owns that land, and both our families go back a long way, and so, but I got to think of people that are on this road now, and you've heard they're saying, and most of them are, 90% of them are all So, Mike, so everybody's against it. I don't know if that means anything nowadays.
Well, we'll have to see here, so, anything else you want to add? No, I'm gonna move on
It's
then.
way past my bedtime, so.
I'm gonna move on. The next name I have is Gail Strawman.
I'll speak on Larry Strawman.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know much more I can say after Jim and Mike's talk, but it was in 1993 we bought our lot on Pioneer Road off of Robert Herda. And we looked all over the place too, like Beaujeu area and everything, and I had friends that lived on the corner of Limousine and Rodeo, and he said there were lots for sale on Pioneer Road. He gave me the number. I phoned Robert that day in the afternoon. I dropped in, I walked that piece of property, and we bought it that afternoon. The next year we built our house. I moved out from Winnipeg to get away from urban sprawl. And I'll touch a little bit on that. The developer said people want to move out to St. Clements. There's a lot of empty lots to the north of us. Why aren't we filling those lots before we look at other subdivisions? If you're looking for a tax base to maintain the infrastructure of this RM, why not fill up those subdivisions first instead of creating all kinds of sprawled subdivisions that might have 10 lots and only 5 are filled, you open up another one. We're just going to run into the same problem the city of Winnipeg has got with their infrastructure, that they can't maintain it because they've allowed all kinds of urban sprawl. I've also talked, I complained about Pioneer Road, I don't know how many times, and I used to phone and I talked to just the workshop foreman, and he even told me that Pioneer Road isn't built properly to handle the traffic that it's on. And honestly, I wish you'd leave the potholes there because it slows down the traffic. And I mentioned to Mr. Belanger last year, we've got a 90-kilometer speed limit on that street. And I don't know how many people know that. I'm sitting on my lawn tractor and people are bombing by me. The dust is okay, but they don't realize the stones are throwing off their tires as they go by me. I moved to a rural setting to live in a rural setting. And this subdivision doesn't fit a rural setting. And everything that I've heard tonight, where these people disagree, I'm on board with them 110%.
Thank you for that. Okay, the next name I have on my list is Robert Herda.
Right here.
Have you anything that you would like to add to the conversation this evening, Mr. Herda?
I kind of think I should.
Okay.
I'm almost 80 years old. I was born on that piece of property. From Selkirk Hospital, that's where I went home. I don't understand how this is happening, really. I live directly across the road right now, and I don't appreciate this being done. No, there's a roadway in this subdivision running from Pioneer East to a dead end of trees on a municipal right-of-way. There's one road going east and one going west, or north and south, pardon me. And there's private property on both sides, so I don't understand the subdivision with 3 dead ends on it. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, as far as water quality, I'm sure Allison doesn't even know what kind of water there is on this property. My parents drilled a well there. It's 250 feet deep, and it has to have an iron remover on it. So there's no big quality of water in that area. Everybody knows it.
That's a fact.
You know? Now you're going to let in 11 more wells? That doesn't make a lot of sense. No, as far as the handling the amount of traffic on the road, if you've got 3 dead ends into a subdivision, you're definitely coming out on Pioneer Road. You're increasing the traffic. You're increasing the potholes. In the springtime, it takes over a month before the road is fit to drive on. And after every rain, it falls apart. You know, I never complained about this road once in all the years I've lived there, because I knew the people who built it. They're good people, they done the best they could. They did. You know? But making a subdivision yet now, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't see any good reasoning for it. When, like they say, north of us, there's lots that are empty. I don't know whether there's need or greed. There's a difference here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Agreed.
I think there's a quality of life that was set in that area years ago, and I think it should be kept. And that's all I have to add to it now at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, I do have a couple more names on my list, and I also believe that there's at least a couple of people that are on Zoom, so I will finish with my list here first, and the next name I have is Paul Natchuk.
Yeah. I take issue with the developer claiming that they talked to the adjacent landowners. I own the property immediately south of this proposed subdivision. I've not been approached by the developer. They have not introduced themselves to me. They have not, I did not even get a letter from the planning board about this. A letter was sent to my brother from the planning board with my name and his name on the same letter. We are both landowners, separate. We both own that land, not together. I believe the developer has not done their due diligence on this project, and all the water issues that Councillor Horbus has already brought up are, I have concerns. The water there flows east. If the developer plans to make the water flow to Pioneer Road and then to the ditches, they're going to be making water run uphill. But, you know, we've seen that happen in different areas. Anyway, most of it, everything else has been said, but that's my comments. I am against this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, I have one more name on my list here. I have Guy or Dar Mallow.
Guy Mallow, 73.
No, sorry.
No worries. 73074 Pioneer Road.
Yeah.
Directly across the property. So the new road would be my front neighbor. I'm with these people 110%. Everything's been said. Water quality. I see nothing but wildlife coming out there. I moved out there 24 years ago. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it's something you don't want to lose. It's part of your life. My kids are growing up there. I'm retired now, living there. To see that destroyed is just, it's unbelievable. To have all that commotion coming through, they already did it with the north subdivision. It just opened up Pioneer Road from CIL Road over, everybody takes the back roads. It's just crazy. I think you heard from all of us here, council, this is how we feel. So, you know what? Do us all a solid, do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Zoom. I think there's a couple people that are on Zoom that wanted to speak. And I can't see.
Yes, may I speak? It's Barry Boyce.
I will get to you in one moment, Barry. Wendy Ross, if you want to speak to this application, please go ahead.
I have resided on Pioneer since 2008. I am greatly concerned for this proposed development for the zoning of 12 lots. I too choose to live in a secluded rural area, and I am disturbed by the prospect of this being disrupted by such a large development. And I am also concerned, like the rest of us, for the fresh water supply and the drain of our wells. I also know that there's more crime rate when you have more people, and I don't want to say too much because everything that everybody else has said, I've also, you know, I'm agree with them. But we will have increased traffic, requiring increased road maintenance, increased property taxes to cover increased road maintenance, or even worse, increased deterioration to our road due to this increased traffic and noise of the construction and later the noise for such development. So, and I was never even known about this. No letters, no nothing. And so I think that this isn't right. And it's not always about money. And that's, thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Okay, Barry and Eleanor, I know that you've been probably tuning in and out for the better part of the day today. So Barry, if you want to go ahead, now would be your chance.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Mayor. I want to commend the council. You've been at it since 2 o'clock, and you got better stamina than most professional teams I know. That's the first thing. Second thing is, Wendy, I apologize for butting in front of you. I didn't realize that there was a waiting order here on the Zoom call. They've got our names up first, and I thought I'd be up first, so I apologize. My name's Barry Boyce. I represent Mike Chonsky. Mike has hired me as a consultant, and my wife is Eleanor Boyce, nee Chonsky. So I've been told I'm doing this gratis quo, or complimentary to Mike. I'm doing it also for everybody, all 27 residents that are in juxtaposition and in adjacent land situations to this development, I've been told are in the negative for this development. I'm Manitoba educated, graduated from the University of Manitoba, 71 and 74. Mike said I'm an expert, and I've told him in the past I'm not an ex or a spurred. An ex is a has-been, and a spurred is water leaking under high pressure. Bottom line is I've got 50 years of hydrodynamic, hydraulic, surface and subsurface water and oil and gas experience. I'm speaking in the negative for this subdivision, and I'm focused on the water quality. You put 12 wells down, and they're going to have to go deeper to get water. The Manitoba Mines Branch says that there's a hydrodynamic discontinuity at the base of the Cenozoic, top of the Paleozoic. They're going to challenge that, and they're going to bring up not just irons and ferric and ferrous, which are bad for human health and bad for the water quality and taste, but they're going to bring up sulfides and sulfates, which are really bad for the human body. So you're challenging the residents that live there on the quality of their water if you allow this to go ahead. Secondarily, the water quantity. The water quantity cannot be justified in the Lake Agassiz clays and the Cenozoic rocks and recent rocks that what people are putting these wells into. You're going to cause a drawdown. The well spacing units for water wells is much, much larger than in the area at present. So putting subdivisions in there is going to ruin the quality of the water for the people that are there. Basically, a lot of other things that I was going to mention have been said, and you've been at it since 2 o'clock, so I'm going to end here. Retention ponds, detention ponds, or pools will not satisfy the water drainage. Your micro ponds and macro ponds in Manitoba, as well as a lot of the Precambrian outcrop areas that are covered with tundra in Manitoba. It doesn't help the situation at all. It is a bad idea developing this acreage. We're in the negative for it, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much for that, Barry. Okay, I don't believe that there is anyone else who wishes to speak, and if you haven't had an opportunity to speak and you would like to, now would be the time to put your hand up. Go ahead, Dar.
I forgot, I just wanted to give a shout out to the wildlife. That's my pet peeve. We have deer, we have foxes and coyotes. And a bear. Every once in a while we have a bear comes through in spring and fall, and there just get less and less and less spaces to go and oh my God, there's a bear in my yard. Even in the Saturday cartoons, I saw a cartoon thing of a bear traversing a place after a winter hibernation. So just a shout out for the wildlife. That's my thing, and less space for the poor babies.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Allison can agree with me on this. I farm in southeast Manitoba, Middle Manitoba, and if any of you are aware of Jackson Springs water, and the water that all superstores sell comes from Middleville, Manitoba, from an aquifer. There is 10 to 12 B trains of water, fresh water, being taken out of Middleville, bringing into Winnipeg to be processed in bottled water. So that's one thing to consider about fresh water, how important it is. And what that gentleman just spoke there, he's an expert. I'm not, but that's how important fresh water is. And if something goes wrong with people's wells, that is an issue. When I see these trucks going through small town Little Row, and it was Berkeley nominated as the best fresh water, non-carbonated water in the world twice. It's won the award. And this water is coming into Winnipeg. So if the wells in this area goes bad because of this development, because they're going to suck a third as much water as being sucked now. So it's going to happen. What's going to happen to the well water? I just want to bring up that point.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I think everybody who wanted to speak would have that. Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So just to quickly touch on that, actually, that's traveling 2 hours and taking it by truck. That's something to be considered. Coming from where? An area that's underdeveloped. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Middleborough. You see one house, and after that you see about 3,000-4,000 trees. That's basically about it. And they got water. It's kind of cool. Anyways, the second thing that I did want to touch on was the overland water. That there couldn't be more overland water that's coming off of that property onto others, right? Now, I used to work in construction. I do something a little bit different now. But when I used to do something, I had this weird thing about me that I always actually made it better. You know, new, it's good, it's better. Oh, no, it's about the same. Why isn't it not better? Why do I have to worry about my yard to keep flooding, or actually probably more than likely flood more? Because I'm probably the only one dumb enough to do this, but I pumped my garden out about 6 times this year. It should be better. New is new. Not mediocre, not tolerable, it should be better. It's probably more, but I'm pretty happy with that for now.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, Allison, you have heard everybody speak their mind and came up with different ideas and different things that they would like to see, and I'm going to give you now the opportunity to address some of the concerns that the neighbors have.
Okay. I'll start. If you want to throw anything in, please feel free. In terms of the road, the government road allowance, that was one of the conditions when we talked to Sue, that she said it would have to be developed at the same time. So there will be no cul-de-sac or dead end. It will be a through road going all the way through.
And you're talking the undeveloped road allowance at the east end?
Road allowance on the east end, yes. In terms of the water, the online, as was mentioned, we do have to meet the provincial requirements. It also has to go through the RM. It's done by an engineer. They do look at, like when they're doing an engineered drainage plan, they do look at how the lots are developed in the area, and they consider how much of that land is going to be developed, and they account for the land that is paved, the land that has a house on it, where you could put a shed, a shop, and then look for how much water would have been absorbed into the ground that now won't be absorbed. And you have to account for that so that the water is not draining off of the property. And that is all covered in the drainage plan and also has to be approved by the province before any work begins on the drainage work. I mean, these lots are definitely not urban in nature. A 4-acre lot is a large lot. The land also isn't that easy to farm based on the river lots themselves are challenging to farm just based on modern farm equipment and the amount of land and the size of farms. The farms in Manitoba have, their number of farms have decreased, but the size of the farms have increased. It's not viable to farm a smaller acreage of land and make it profitable at this point in time. Ultimately, the proposed subdivision does comply with the development plan, the zoning bylaw, and both Jared and I are from rural Manitoba, we're from smaller towns and communities, and we genuinely think that this development, we take a lot of pride in the work that we do and the developments that we create. And we want to offer other people the lifestyle that the people in this room have. The other people in this room with their, you know, the 5-acre lot, the chance to have this rural type of lifestyle, to live in the arm of St. Clements and to enjoy this lifestyle that's there.
The two inroads that are shown there were placed with consultation with the RM. So those are to provide future access to connect those properties. So that was done in planning with the RM.
Yeah, one of those properties is mine and nobody discussed that with me.
Yeah, but it's not something that you're being forced to do anything with. It's available there for future access down the road into the future. Not anything imminent, but just a provision for it. And so that was done in consultation with the planning.
So the initial subdivision plan that we had proposed did not have the north and south roads, and that was in discussion with Sue and with Benny to add in the north and south roads to allow an internal road system.
Okay, so,
sorry, I forgot one thing. I know there's been a lot of talk about the wells, and at the risk of adding things on to the subdivision approval, one of the conditions that Springfield has been adding on to their subdivisions is a hydrogeological report. The hydrogeological report, in the past, like I've had freezing drillers come out to do that report, and that report is done by an engineer, and they look at the aquifer, the impact of the development, the quality of the water, and whether or not the aquifer can sustain that type of use. So I think this could be a reassurance that would really address that concern that was mentioned today.
okay, everybody has had the opportunity. Jim, did you have one more comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, I challenge the statement that's saying it's not economical development to farm that 50 acres. In my 32 years there, there's been a crop going in that every year, and there's a crop on it this year. I've lived every part of Manitoba, and I have seen 5-acre plots being market gardens. I have seen 50-acre crops of different crops. That is arable land. That is agricultural land that we are losing. We heard in the news just last night, the amount of South Sudan, that may only be 50,000 or 160,000 bushels. But you're setting a precedent by shutting down those small plots of land. We have people that want those small plots of land. Make it agricultural.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I'm gonna let you go ahead, and then I think I would like to close it off.
It's just short, just to say, if this subdivision is even entertained after all the discussion that we've had here, I would like my consultant to be able to review any of the reports that are done as far as a geological water survey. He's got more experience and qualifications than anybody in this province has, and I would like to be able to have our homeowners association have the ability to review that report before any approval is done to go any further with anything.
Well,
I don't know if you can do that, I'm asking.
You can't do that.
Okay.
That would be very difficult. You could certainly get access to the report when it's done. The province of Manitoba is the authority having jurisdiction to that. And so
Are we able to even review it and have a look at, see what the report is, or?
you will get access to it as part of the Freedom of Information when it becomes available. But as a requirement for them, it goes through the approving agency. I appreciate that you have a professional, and I'm not even arguing the fact for the qualifications or anything. The person has, Barry has considerable qualifications. The point is, it goes to the approving authority that has to do this.
Granted.
And Madam Mayor, if I could.
No, go
There were
ahead.
several questions that Mr. Stinson brought up, and I think it's important to make sure that some of those are addressed. I think, Bevy, if you could talk about the AR zoning. People could read particular parts from any zoning bylaw and interpret them the way, but you have to read the entire context of the zoning bylaw to understand. And that's why we have Red River Planning and professionals who do that analysis. So AR zoning has, as a matter of fact, there are lots all along here that are 5 acres. Those are allowed to be 5 acres because they sit in an AR zoning. They're not in an A40, they're not in an A80. Those are agricultural lands that are restricted for agricultural purposes. AR, agriculture restricted, does not mean it's only restricted for agricultural purposes. It means it's AR as a zoning type, and under that, under the zoning bylaw, it clearly outlines what is allowed. And if you took a look at the report said it complied with everything, so.
I'm just going to talk briefly about what is in my report, especially when you look at some of the policies about AR policy 4.2.1.11.1. Talks about the agricultural restriction in terms of size. It has to be 4 acres, and it's basically for residential, or it's for commercial or institutional. But it's kind of really very specific about the site, which says it's 4 acres. And if you look at what is the applicant is proposing, it makes the zoning value in terms of the acreage, it makes the zoning value in terms of the width, and the roads are well connected, and we don't really have anything to go against what is being proposed tonight in terms of policy and in terms of how it complies with our development plan and policy. So there's no way we can kind of go against it.
Okay, I have one last question, and it's more for clarification and so that everybody sitting in the room here understands the new legislation that was recently passed by the province of Manitoba regarding Bill 37.
Yes.
If you could explain that to everyone in the room, I think that may help. I know that it may not go over very well, but I would like you to explain it, please.
So it seems as if regular planning is kind of pushing things through like very fast, but the point is that with Bill 37, both the regular planning and council, where everybody's kind of under the timeline of 90 days between when the application is submitted to when council makes a decision. As soon as we take the application, where everybody is pretty much under 90 days to make a decision on the application. So that is why when we take the application, remember it has to be circulated for 20 days, especially a subdivision. It has to be circulated for 20 days to other provincial agencies. We need to get those reports in. We need to write a report, and we need to bring it before council within 90 days. So it's not like before where you can kind of be going back and forth with an applicant trying to see if there's anything, but now everybody's kind of in a timeline. If we don't pass it through in 90 days, the applicant can even go to the municipal court to kind of to challenge to appeal it. So that is why everybody's on a timeline here. And it's not like everybody's rushing or RRPD is rushing the application to council. It's just because everybody's on a timeline to get it according to Bill 37.
So this is a legislative requirement on council from the province of Manitoba. But in addition to that, Benny, can you please explain the requirements of council because Mr. Stinson has also said, well, reject it. Council is not allowed to reject something unless they have valid reason. And that's very clear in the legislation. And those reasons are related to the bylaws, the development plans, and so forth that are out there. And in this application, can you explain, does this application meet those, or is there any of those criteria?
I think I've touched on that. The application kind of meets all the policies, all the zoning bylaw and every development plan. And that is what we use. That's more like a guidance for everybody or for whatever planning. As a planner that guides in terms of your report rights and everything. And we came to the conclusion that it meets all these policies and everything. So just to talk about the fact that even if council decides to reject it tonight, based on the fact that it meets all the policies, the applicant can challenge this to the municipal court. And you have to give reasons for doing that tonight. And we don't know whether you have any reason to reject it based on what is in front of you, and that becomes a problem because when it goes to the municipal board, if it gets approved, the problem with that is council will not even have the opportunity to implement some of the conditions on the group, so that it becomes a problem. Because
what are some of the things the municipal board can do to council?
You might have to pay for the cost of the application, and in terms of some of the conditions that have been listed tonight, if you go before council, they can take everything away.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who are you representing though? Aren't you representing your constituents? Or are you
We are,
representing
I'm
the
just
province?
no, I'm telling you, under what legislation the council is governed under. I'm not here to argue for the applicant or anyone. I'm just trying to explain the rules and asking the planner to explain those rules under the legislation that was passed. So please, sir, don't take this as a proponent of this, but to understand and explain the rules. Just like I've been explaining the rules on zoning, just like I have to explain the rule for Femi to talk about the difference between the development plan and the zoning bylaw. Because the development plan is the plan that the province approves, that the municipality creates. That plan also allows for this to happen. And so those are some of the things that they have to deal with, and that's why all the report has come forward to us. Okay, council will make a decision on this. I'm just explaining the process for you.
But I'm just saying who voted council in, the people that spoke to them.
Correct.
So that's.
And the people also voted the provincial MLAs in, as well as they voted
But we pay taxes to the Department of St. Lawrence, right?
I don't think that anybody wants to.
Yeah, so I don't know what are we doing here?
Excuse me, I don't believe that anybody wants to get into an argument or anything like that. All we're trying to do is explain the new legislation, which in one way does tie council's hands in some respects. Because and I'm not gonna mention this one, if a subdivision, if an application comes to council and it meets all the zoning bylaw requirements and the Planning Act requirements, council can make a decision to deny it, but we have to provide our reasons. The applicant can then go to the municipal board, and that's kind of where we're at here. If we deny the application and the applicant takes it to the municipal board, everyone will be, the municipality will be on the hook, as Femi said, to pay all the costs and to do whatever they say. And in all likelihood, if it does meet all the zoning requirements and the Planning Act requirements, the municipal board can say, go ahead, developer, do your subdivision. Go ahead,
And
Femi.
any of the conditions that were put on as part of the process are not.
Are you satisfied with what they said about the water? Well, I don't know. What did they provide that the well water's going to remain the same? They didn't provide you with anything. She didn't provide you with nothing.
No, but I think
The developer didn't.
I appreciate that, sir. The applicant is suggesting that they will do an additional work. a hydrogeological report in order to help support that so that they develop.
But they didn't do their homework. They're assuming the water will be okay. Because now they say they'll to provide.
They did their homework in Manitoba Conservation, Manitoba Agriculture, Manitoba Environment and Climate and Parks, all said that they support this. It went through that level of circulation.
But did they do the water analysis? They promised.
That comes to the next step.
To make the application,
but
they
they
did
haven't
not, they did not have to
Okay,
do the
that's-
water analysis.
So there you go, they have it.
So, the
Okay,
point- the
I'm
point
gonna
is,
let the planner speak
the point is,
because,
this application is in the hands of the council tonight. If it goes out of your hands tonight, that could be a problem because you won't be able to impose some of the conditions that you might like to impose, like the archaeological survey, like some other conditions that you think would make it feel better. So if it goes to the municipal board, then it becomes an issue because sometimes they can ask the developer to go develop as he chooses or as they choose.
so if I can say it this way, Femi, if council chooses to approve this application with certain conditions,
Yes.
it can move forward. If council chooses to deny the application, we do have to provide our reasons for denying it.
Correct.
And then if it goes to the municipal board by the applicant for denying it, then the municipal board can pass it with none of the conditions that we spoke about today.
Correct.
They wouldn't. No way. They wouldn't overstep the RM of St. Clements if you guys made a judgment decision saying, you know what, our residents are concerned about the water, municipal board in province, they wouldn't overstep you.
We've been
Promise
sued
that.
before for
We
that.
have been.
Well, give it a whirl.
We've been sued before.
Well,
Further-
take
You guys know
them,
anything about money, that's all you care about.
take them to task. See how strong these developers are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of land in Steinbach that they're not developing. Why aren't they developing in Steinbach? That's where they're from. We know where they're from.
What about the lot that's been for sale for how long, that's 44 acres, right on 44? How come that wasn't looked at? Instead, you guys are taking a lot where you gotta build 3 roads?
They're from Steinbach. They could have
Please
developed in
talk to
Steinbach.
So, I'm sorry, sorry.
Okay, I want to wind this up. I'm going to
Madam Mayor,
give,
there's a couple of other questions that should have been. One was,
Answered.
when will the road be built, before or after the houses? The road on the east side.
yeah, the road on the east side.
We were told it had to be done as part of the subdivision.
So it'd be
So
done
it's part-
before
So
the houses.
before the houses are there. Okay.
In all,
Wait, just one moment, because I think there was one more question here that we needed some clarification on.
The other question was related with notification. Could you please explain the notification? to the
This is a subdivision and it went through all the notification processes, mail outs, 100 meters radius from their site, and the site was adequately posted. This is not a zoning bylaw amendment, so it doesn't require a newspaper advertisement.
A direct quote from the planning board's website here states that, they're going to develop plans according to the overall vision with goals and objectives as stated by the planning board, taking into consideration social and physical conditions. Social conditions. That has been a big point of what everybody's had here today. Quality of life. Sure, we brought up other issues as far as the well and everything, but as members of elected members supporting your local constituents, I want you to put some strong emphasis on, their commitment and their mandate in consideration of social conditions, our living, our quality of life, how long we've lived here. We've got representatives that have been on the land for 50, 60 years, myself 25, or with the exception of Calvin here, the people in this room have all been here for like 25 years or more. And if you can't take that social consideration and heavily weight that, then I don't know why we elect officials, really.
Can we speak to planning board or planning branch? Could we ever speak to residents? Can we go to there and talk to them?
This is the municipal board.
Can we go there? Can residents speak to them? If it goes forward, can we speak for them?
Is this your question? And I'm gonna probably, Femi, you can probably answer this better, but if council chooses to approve this application with conditions tonight, I think what Mr. Stinson is asking is, can the residents appeal it to the municipal board?
I guess they can appeal it, but I guess what I want to talk about is the fact that if you make a decision that is negative tonight, it becomes an issue between the council and the municipal board. So residents won't be involved in that.
Okay, I have, so I work in construction. I've been in construction for, well, to be perfectly honest, since I was 13, I think I started working for my dad. I've grown up that way. I always have to be doing something. And if this is going to be treated like an absolute job site, then I want it to be like every single job site inside of Winnipeg. When they're building a development inside an already developed area, they need to come in the other way. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to make sure that you guys spend as much money up front as absolutely possible. And by the way, that road that I want you guys to take, not come down Pioneer with all your trucks, all your construction and trades. There should be signs set up on 44 highway. That is not an RTAC highway. And another thing you should also know, how many gravel trucks rip up and down from 44 from Beausejour going over to Pine Ridge? You think DOT's not going to be there? I'm in that industry. They're going to be there. You're going to be paying double on all your loads because you're not going to get service.
I'm sorry. That's enough.
Sorry, I got work done.
I'm not
I would just like to see go that way.
Leave. Thank you. Mr. Natchick, go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment, like all of us are against it. This is democracy. I would say.
Why did
You know?
I mean, why listen to us? You guys could have gone home a long time ago. Why listen to us if it's
whatever you want anyhow, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Why are we here if
Because the
you automatically already know what you're going to say?
Because the requirement is for a subdivision, we must have a public hearing.
And from a public hearing, some things come out from those public hearings that can help to mitigate some concerns. Can you stop? Every landowner has certain rights on their lands. Those rights are governed by policies and procedures and government regulations. That's what's in here. Council has to take those into consideration. These properties sit under the province of Manitoba establishes the Planning Act as to how land can be done, subdivided and created. Under that, it requires all municipalities to create a development plan. Under the development plan, you can set rules and regulations under which everyone is governed, and then people know what rights and what privileges they have. Under the development plan then comes secondary plans and zoning bylaws. They help to further fine tune what the community and the social needs and all those things are taken into consideration. But once those rules are established, you have to stay within those guidelines. And within those guidelines, if you're meeting all those, as a landowner, every landowner has that right. Just like if you wanted to put a garage up in your house, on your property, you have an inherent right. And your neighbor can't come and say, well, I don't like you putting up a garage on your property because I have a sight line to the sun going down over there. Unless you can negotiate with your neighbor, that's where the public hearing process comes when you go to do something different. And that's the whole process behind here. So it takes those things into consideration, and their responsibility is to be able to make decisions based on those rules and regulations that are provided by planning and governed by the province of Manitoba.
Okay, Councillor Horvis, I believe, has something to say.
I'd just like to say, in the previous government, before this new government came in, this government has taken a lot of municipal power away from us. It has, because they want to run the province and make this a lot more efficient, as is Bill 37. Okay? The municipality doesn't have the power it used to have in any of this. And without saying what government that's taken all this away from us, we're powerless. We're not powerless, we have some things that we can implement, like the water, the quality of the water. We can make that study happen, but we can't tell somebody, everybody has the right, like Deepak said, to sell their land. We can't stop that. Everybody should have it. Someday, sooner or later, people who have this land there, in 100 years from now, they'll want to subdivide that. It's not all going to stay agriculture forever. But it's very frustrating sitting here, seeing all you people here and all the people previous here today. We understand your needs and everything, but we can only do so much. And if they meet all the requirements and everything that's in line there, it's hard to stop. So, you know, I know everybody's upset. It's upsetting sitting here too.
So why are they doing it? It's just for money. Let's face it, it's nothing else. Nothing else.
For one business to financially
Yeah.
prosper.
Okay, I'm
all
going
money.
to
Someone throw the sign back.
close it off
It's
here.
not-
I am going to let Mr. Herda have the last word, and then I'm going to close it off.
Is Kirkness Car Connection a business that was licensed on this property? Is that still valid?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, I'm afraid. Is there a business running from this property?
Well, municipality licensed it.
Okay.
Is that still valid after this decision tonight, one way or the other?
I'm not sure I understand.
No, he's saying that there is a business running on the property currently, and will it be allowed to stay if this subdivision goes through? I think that was your question.
No, it will not be.
Who owns the property right now as we sit here? Who's got title to it? Is it closed? Is it sold to the developer, or is it still owned by the previous owner?
The situation is the applicant has the authority for the developer, or
Yes.
for the landowner to be able to make that application. And I think, Femi, you should answer.
Yeah, we have a letter of authorization from Jordan, submitted by the applicant, so.
Well, when you,
So
go
who's
to
the-
the municipal board, he's not gonna buy it then. I'll guarantee you, he's not gonna buy it. Challenge them. He's not gonna buy it, he's gonna back away.
So the property hasn't been closed on,
The
it's still in
property
the
hasn't been sold, he's gonna back away. He's not gonna buy it. You guys just say no. He won't buy it.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm
I was gonna say, I'd like to
closed.
apologize. I got worked up, and there's all these older families are here, and the reason that I get worked up is Danielle and I bought the place to have a rural family. I wanted to raise my kids, not looking out the door and seeing my hand. I'm sorry, I got worked up because it's my future. It's what I've always wanted. I busted my ass all my life. And if you can't pass it to make them cross through that there and put that road in,
Yeah.
Okay, the gentleman at the back, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name, but
Larry Strong.
I'll let you have the last
I
word.
just want to say,
Can you put buffer
to all
zones
you
in?
counselors, fight for us. We want to live in a rural setting. Don't fight for a developer from Steinbach. I bought the property up. Tonight, I listened to two subdivisions, and it's been developers that want to develop those subdivisions. Fight for us. We vote for you. We want to live in a rural setting.
Okay, I'm gonna try and explain this one last time, and then we're gonna move forward. I think we all realize that everybody is upset over this application. I will try and explain it the best way I can. If we deny the subdivision, we have to give our reasons. It can then be challenged at the municipal board by the developer, and the municipality could end up paying all the costs incurred for the municipal board to deal with it. If council chooses to approve the subdivision, all the things that we talked about this evening about the water and the drainage and the roads and all those other things, the developers will have to do all those things to municipal and provincial standards. If council does approve it and the residents group could go to the municipal board, I am not sure if that is possible. And if they can, then it may go in the residents' favor. What I do know is that if we deny it, we have to give our reasons. It could be challenged by the developer, and then the municipality, and everyone in here would be on the hook for all the costs incurred. This way, if it's approved by council, the developer is on the hook for all the costs, for building the roads, for doing all the testing, for getting all the reports done, and all the things that are required to be done to have the subdivision approved. So I'm not sure if that explains it. I know that probably some of you are not happy with that explanation, but I don't think that I can explain it or make it any clearer what council's choices are. Femi, was there anything that you wanted to add?
Not really, but the way it is right now, council has the opportunity to add those conditions the moment it slips from your hands tonight. I think those conditions are gone.
Tell me that again.
Remember, with all
The council has the opportunity to add
those
conditions tonight to the development application, to the subdivision. If it was denied, council has no opportunity to add, and there's no further opportunities to add because it's out of, and there is no opportunity for the residents to make their case to the municipal board either.
Do you mind if I ask one more question, please? It's part of the development agreement. The road that the developer will be putting in the subdivision will be a private road. Will the municipality be responsible for maintaining that road?
It will be a public road, it must meet municipal standards.
But the municipality will be maintaining that road and as a public road? Okay.
After the warranty period.
Right, after the warranty period, and it has to be built to municipal standards.
Okay, so the snow removal and all the rest of that will be on the municipal circle?
Once it's built to municipal standards, yes.
There was never any talk about a buffer zone. Would there be ever any consideration, when I'm talking a buffer zone, between the lots that run east and west on the north and south side, would there ever be any consideration, I know on the north side, there's a heavy tree line there, but could ever be, you did a very good job of explaining it, thank you. We didn't know this, but we just bring our concern. But if you looked at putting a buffer zone on either side to prevent, you know what I mean, like, because I mentioned you've got those roads going out, we don't know what that is. But if you put a buffer zone along the side, I don't know.
Are you talking about the lots or the roads? Because
No, the
don't
lots,
forget,
the lots.
The
Along
lots
the
are
back end
private.
of the lots.
The lots are private property. I don't believe that we can
But
tell
if-
you to put a buffer zone.
What kind of buffer zone? I
Well,
don't understand.
what I'm talking about is if you talked about a person putting a fence up along the other lots, you know, you're talking about it, and I'm not thinking of fence, we're not in a, we don't want to be in residential area, we don't want fences. But a buffer zone so that, you know, like I'm talking about
Green
my
space?
fence, little Johnny, stay out of my electric fence, you know what I mean? You had, I think Dave, Mr. Sutherland knows whatever.
Essentially, green space, Jim, is that what you're saying? Like, green space, because I know that one of the recommendations on there was to have at least 10% of that area put into green space, and maybe that's.
Green space or whatever you want to call it, it's never been mentioned, I just bring it forward to try to make it better. What we're gonna work with.
We don't have the plant trees.
I think the developer offered to plant trees and deal with some of those things as part of the buffer
The
zone.
lot depth will be in excess of 300 feet. So if the front yard setback requirement is 125, essentially the rear yards will have a considerable distance to those to those boundaries.
Who would have rights to plant trees on those, on that property though? If it was a buffer, so it was meant as green space and it was dedicated to put trees in there, like my.
It's not meant as green space. Green space, there's a 10% requirement, but it must meet some sort of requirement to create a public green space. And usually on these kinds of situations, what happens is that the municipality asks for contribution in value of the 10%, so they can devote it to appropriate green space. Otherwise, you'd have all these little subdivisions with little pockets of green space, so it's a matter of collecting it and then building appropriate green space. Unless you need it for things such as riparian areas,
They're not home yet.
and rivers and streams and so forth, then you can ask for some of that.
Developer.
We're thinking about the kids running into our electric fence.
No, I understand what you're
Because,
saying,
yeah, there's no division.
and like, what would you do to do that buffer? If you put trees, kids can walk around trees and still go to the fence.
What I did was I felled trees there because they were driving their quads through there I had to follow the tree. It had to be a solid, Tyler can't be out there chasing quads through there all the time. I cut trees down, to stop them from running through the pasture.
Yeah. Okay, I think Councillor Boulanger has something to say, so go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a question I have that I don't know the answer to, and perhaps Femi or Mr. CEO has the answer to it, but it's a fundamental question, and that is, we've been talking a lot tonight about having to give reasons under Bill 37 why council denied something. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but because the voice of ratepayers do mean something. So my question is, does anybody know, would the municipal board say just saying people were against it is enough reasons? Is enough to, I didn't think so, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody could give you the answer to that. I think, if we said that we listened to our residents and no one was in support of this application in the area, I don't even know if it goes to the municipal board, if we would have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, that's all I know. Thank you.
Because, will the residents, was I getting this, if you passed it tonight, would we, the residents, be able to form a group and go to the municipal board?
What I said was you could check with them to see if you could. I don't know if they can. And Femi is saying
we
yes.
can, eh? Okay.
Yes,
You might
we
be
can.
able to, but the
There could be
municipal
round
board, you'll have to make an application,
Will be
give
round
you a
two.
reasoning, and they may reject it. Based on-
Can we fight Bill 37?
Bill 37 has already been adopted, and Bill 34, along with it, has already passed proclamation.
So, I mean, we all understand your concerns, and I think we've heard all the concerns. And unfortunately, the decision that we have to make is a tough one on this one, and I think I'm gonna ask for the resolution to close this off because we have some other business to deal with, and it is 11 o'clock, so I would like to move forward if we possibly could, so.
Thank you.
Resolve the public hearing for S 22-2957 be closed and the regular session of council be reconvened.
May I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbis, second. Councillor Strang, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, I believe we do have a resolution here. I'm just looking to see if there is something in here about a development agreement to make sure that it is in there. Okay. Okay, so we will bring the resolution forward and we'll see where it goes.
So in the future, for keeping, no, fuck, I don't care, what the fuck do I care? In the future, to me at least, like, save everybody's time, taxpayer dollars, you guys could have had a way earlier night. If it meets your parameters, just save everybody the damn time.
You know what?
I'm sorry, I know your hands are tied.
You know what, I just want to say to you, it doesn't matter about saving our time. The legislation says that we have to have a public hearing. So whether we want to be here or not, we don't have a choice according to the legislation. And yes, we could have all been doing something different tonight, but that's unfortunately how it turns out with legislation in Manitoba. Okay? Go ahead.
Regarding subdivision application number S22-2957, proposal of Blue Stem Development to subdivide OT 115A/116A. Resolved that council approve the said application subject to the following conditions. Applicant owner submits confirmation in writing from the chief administrative officer of the municipality that taxes on the land be subdivided for the current year, plus any arrears that have been paid. Development road levies along the administration fee, or B, development road levies along the administration fee to be paid as per bylaw 14 of 2009. Provide a digital copy of the plan of subdivision to the RMSA Clements. A grading plan be prepared to indicate positive drainage on the property to the satisfaction of the RMSA Clements to ensure that the proposed property does not drain onto or impede drainage of from neighboring properties. An engineered plan, paved road plan be prepared as per municipal servicing standards. An engineered road plan be prepared as per municipal servicing standards.
We get it on the screen?
Pardon?
Did we get it on the screen, the resolution?
Okay, I'll see if I can get that switched over.
Oh, you can't, I didn't know it was just a click of a thing.
He's got two computers going today, so.
Okay, we'll switch over in a second.
Can we access copies of the minutes for this meeting?
Yes, you will. Once they're made public, you'll have access to them. The meeting has also been recorded.
Okay, how long will it take for us to be able to review, like, the stuff you're talking about, you gotta do this, and this? Like, will that be available in a few days or a week or?
Approximately about a week or two. The minutes.
The draft minutes will be within a few days, but they're only draft.
About a week or so, the draft minutes will be up in about a few days.
Thank you.
The resolutions are usually available relatively quickly. Okay. So, I'm not sure if that helps anymore. Can't make it any bigger. Okay, let me see if I've got it. No, I'm not able to make it any bigger. Okay. Provide, where was I on, development and road levies along, engineered road plan be prepared as per municipal servicing standards. Applicant to revise subdivision application map to align north and south road with Willow Road in the future and to tie east and west road into undeveloped road allowance. Applicant to construct road and drainage of undeveloped road allowance to allow 2 points of access to proposed subdivisions. Number 2, enter into a development agreement with the RMSA Clements to address items including but not limited to, if required, an engineered road plan and drainage. A, an engineered road plan and drainage plan. B, a letter of credit for road construction and drainage plan. 3, applicant owner submit confirmation from the Drainage and Water Rights Licensing Branch of Manitoba Conservation and Climate that the applicant has satisfied all requirements from that agency as detailed in the correspondence from April 20th, 2022. This includes, if required, approval of an engineered drainage plan, approval of hydraulic design calculations, and obtaining the water rights license. And then gives the where they can contact. 4, applicant owner submits written confirmation to the RPD from Manitoba Hydro that an easement agreements have been entered into with Manitoba Hydro and Centergas with respect to existing and future facilities associated with the subdivision and a plan of easement as required by the Real Property Act has been provided. Registration of this agreement will be included as a condition on the final certificate of approval, contact Manitoba Hydro. Applicant owner submits written confirmation to the Red River Planning District from Manitoba Infrastructure Highways Traffic Branch that land drainage is not an issue. A detailed drainage plan may be required. 6, applicant owner submits written confirmation from Bell MTS that an easement agreement has been entered into with Bell MTS with respect to existing and or future facilities associated with the subdivision and a plan of easement as required by the Real Property Act. Registration of this agreement will be included as a condition of the final certificate of approval. Contact Bell MTS. Applicant owner will dedicate 10% of land for public reserve or cash in lieu as determined by council. And I think number 8 was what we were looking at, adding applicant to provide a hydrogeological report associated with the development. Does that appropriate for you?
Well, water capacity is quality.
Well, that's what will be covered in the hydro.
Do they pick it or do you guys pick it?
Sorry?
Do you pick the firm to do it, or do they pick it?
It'll most likely be one that we both come to an agreement with,
Okay,
and at the end
because
of the day.
they're already talking about somebody in Steinbach, so.
No, it's somebody that we use as well.
Okay.
And this is probably one of the top-rated hydrogeological experts in the province.
Thank you.
It's Freezing Drillers is the one I think I mentioned. And they have significant experience in this, probably more experience than most of us in Manitoba have.
Okay, so we have the 8 conditions. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So, just clarification question. Is this a paved road or isn't it?
It's not, I don't think it was supposed to be a paved road because there
Well,
wouldn't
no.
be paved roads around it.
Yeah, because it said paved.
Yes.
Now, I have another clarification question. Can we make it a requirement that they use the east road for construction?
If council so wishes.
Do we need to do it in this resolution or
We
can
will
we
need
do
to
it
do it
in
in
the
this
development
resolution.
agreement?
We will need to do it in this resolution and it would be as part of the development agreement.
I'd like to add using the east road for construction.
Okay. So we'll add one more item. Heather has entered into development agreement with the Armor St. Clements to address items including, but not limited to, if required, an engineered road plan, a drainage plan, letter of credit for road construction and drainage work, and C, construction access to occur from the east road, which is
4 Mile Road, I think.
Yeah, there's a road allowance.
East Road,
Yeah.
from the East Road allowance.
The developer would have to actually build that road first before they could do anything else.
Okay, we can add that, Councillor. So
Okay,
those are the things added.
I think we have it all in there now. Anything further from members of council? I will ask for a mover, please. Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Horwath seconds. Any further discussion on this subdivision application?
I just wanted to ask, in the past, when we've asked for the speed limit to be reduced on Pioneer Road down from 90 kilometers, I was told that it's the provincial government that says that.
Can we just get through this because I'm in the middle of a
I'd just like to have
resolution?
that as part of
I have a mover and a seconder and there is a resolution on the floor. and
I'd just
we-
like to have that part of the resolution, that the speed limit on Pioneer Road.
We can't put that in the resolution.
I guess we'll put up with a crappy road.
We'll speak to that issue if you like,
Yeah,
sir, right after.
just hang on for a minute and we'll speak to you about it. Okay, so I have a mover, I have a seconder. Any other discussion from members of council? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you all for your patience this evening. It's been a pretty long day for us. so-
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
So just to address your
Yeah,
issue.
your concern, yes.
So, In the past, it was the province who established it, but for some of the roads in the RM, now there is a bylaw that we have that once a year we review and can, based on the request from the residents of the entire street section, if there's enough residents, we can make a request to reduce it.
It would just help keep the dust down, the noise, and everything else.
It would have to be reasonable, you wouldn't be able to go 90 to 50.
We did have a few years back, one of our neighbors down Pioneer Road the other way, did go around and have a petition signed and brought it into council. I don't know whatever happened.
But that legislation wasn't there for the council to do it at that
Oh,
time.
really?
Legislation only got changed last year.
Oh.
Like, you know, if I drive down Rockhaven, it's 60 kilometers, 67, and that's paved, like, from Lower Fort Garry to past the houses to Big Phillips Road, it's 70. And I think about 90 kilometers. Like,
It's strange on some roads with.
And, you know, and you drive down our road, we maintain, like, I maintain our ditch, like our grass and my neighbors, you know, and like when I'm out there on my lawn tractor, somebody goes by, and it's not people that live on the street, it's people that are visiting, right? Because there's no sign on the road that says what the speed limit
And
is,
it's
so
straight.
everybody figured real speed is 90 kilometers. That's right.
We can address that.
We can look at addressing that, so if you get your residents together, we can certainly look at addressing that, prepare a letter to us, and then send it to the info at our, and say, we'll make sure we'll work on it. Now,
Okay, we have some other planning items that we need Femi for, so.
no, just so you to understand, they've been told to get access to the road. They only have to build the road to construction standards at the beginning, but they will only get access on the other side.
That turnoff off of 44, we already had a fatal there, there's been a lot of close fatals. Is that the same thing for what you were talking about with him?
No.
How do we get that turned in?
That's a request to the province of Manitoba.
So that's the same as that Larry's talking about,
No.
lowering the speed limit, or?
No, lowering the speed limits within the municipality, the province has given us some level of authorization.
Because there's an awful lot of, more traffic and people, there was a fatal there just recently because of that.
But we can certainly look at the section of Pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
we were
Thank you,
looking
thank you for
at
your
section
patience.
of Pioneer and other things like Covell and other places to look at safety.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Jim?
Only 3 hours left to be around.
Thanks for listening to us. Thanks.
We'll have to pass
Take
another
care.
resolution.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
I think we're on number 14, a subdivision with no public hearing.
Yes. Mr. Goris, are you still on? Would you like to stay on the whole time?
He's waiting for the bylaws.
Oh, you're waiting for the.
I'm loving the excitement here.
Gee, thanks.
It brings back memories.
Just remember, this meeting is being recorded. So, we'll move on to the next items, which is related with.
A subdivision, two subdivisions and zoning bylaws, and hopefully only one.
I need to give
Council report.
I'm not doing council reports today, we'll save them for next meeting.
Okay, are you sure right now?
Me too, I was working on it this morning
Okay,
before
so
I
let
came
me
here.
just switch this back.
It'll still be there.
Taping or are we?
Yes, we're still taking one.
Still in process.
Okay, go ahead, Femi, can you share that? Yeah, I'm just waiting for it. I had to switch it from the computer. So just hang on 1 second. And we'll like wait for the thing to connect.
What happened to your computer, Sandra?
It has like a pulse, that's it. I have no screen.
Mine has nothing. It hasn't worked all this.
Mine's not down on me here too.
It's past 10 o'clock.
I have to get Justin to look because after.
No, mine hasn't been working.
From the back.
You've never had us for the last 2 times?
That was the this device.
when you did like about 30 minutes ago, and then they all lost that little video.
It's following the bylaw, starting off.
Yeah.
It's like me, it's lost.
See,
Try
I
again.
went through all that.
It should come back.
Yeah, it's back now. Hit that little traffic cone.
Where you at?
Double click. It says no.
So I don't know why this.
I got CAO computer here.
Yeah, you have it. Can you just exit out of this thing? So you just exit out
So you gotta pass some things.
Yeah.
and then double click on it again.
If it dies, then it comes back.
There, you're right. So, for you, that got pressed. Oh, sorry. Those are big feet. I mean mine, not yours.
Mine's good.
Okay, yeah.
You don't want to hate me here.
So the power went off.
You should send
Rob shut
somebody
me
in.
down. That was a signal. That was a signal.
No.
Thank you.
You should send, now it's working. It'll go off, but you should send somebody in from the province to let them take all the flack for what everything's happening.
We can discuss that after.
I was tempted if we had a little meeting with Kemp, and say, okay, let's just turn it down, and then they then take their chances.
They wouldn't. That's what Femi was talking about.
Yeah.
Now they get a voice, they wouldn't have a voice.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, take their chances.
Yeah,
at
let's
the
finish,
best
let's
possible.
finish the
Yeah.
meeting and then let's,
Glad we
But
did.
they'd also lose their voice.
We're Femi every night, every planning meeting.
You're not gonna wanna come to St. Clements anymore.
Femi, you're gonna have
That
to,
would not be disastrous. If you had turned it down, that would have, yeah. doesn't make
Yeah, it
sense.
would have been disastrous.
Yeah.
The impact that it would have done to the RM would have been huge.
okay, so we are at number 14, which is subdivision file S22-2951 at 5700 Henderson Highway. There is no public hearing. Femi, do you have something though that you want to tell us on this one?
Just the number, just rundown. The item is, the subdivision application is S22-2951. It's at 5700 Henderson Highway Road number 11900. The intent is to subdivide the parcel into one proposed lot of 1.59 acres, leaving a residual lot of 11.11 acres. So that's the site, the subject site on the marking showing the surrounding area. And that's the subdivision map as submitted by the applicant. And this is just to kind of give council the idea in terms of what the applicant is doing, where the Edison Highway is, proposed lot 1 on the west side of Edison Highway, and the proposed lot 2, which is the residual lot on the east side of Edison Highway. And this is the site area, like a table that shows what the requirements are in the RR zoning district. The site area in the RR zoning district is 60,000 square foot and 198 feet for the site width. Both lots meet the lot area requirement, but not the lot width. So variances will be required for underside lot width. For analysis, so subject land is under dual designation, as I've said, are both AR and RR, split by Henderson Highway, and the applicant wishes to split the parcel along the highway. So highway, the Henderson Highway is going to be more like the split area. And total infrastructure or highway design branch objected to the proposal due to the need to modify current access from the proposed lot and the legalization of the existing assets from the residual lot to PR204. Archaeological assessment service units have requested additional information on the proposal. RRPD recommends approval subject to fact conditions as listed there on the board. That ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the planner from council? Go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
Okay, so the 66-foot width there on existing lot is not in compliance. This is where we're putting the sewer through. If the sewer is there, would it then be in compliance?
No, it's one at, the requirement is 198. And it's.
Even with sewer, it's 198?
Yeah. That is the width requirement in the RR
It's a
zone.
very narrow line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even all the 99 footers don't need to go on 98.
Yeah, it must be.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions to the planner? If we have a resolution, can you please bring it forward? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so because of the way the subdivision is, the applicant is separating the lot based on the roadway. I think even when they come back to council for variance approval, I'm sure it won't be an issue. It's gonna be easy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Regarding subdivision application S222951, proposal of Stank Vicus to subdivide Part RL 224 Plan 2711. Resolved that council approve the said application subject to the following conditions. Applicant owner submits confirmation in writing from the municipality stating that taxes on the lands to be subdivided for the current year and any arrears have been paid. Development levies to be paid as per bylaw 14 of 2009. Provide a digital copy of a plan of subdivision to the RSA commands. Applicant owner submits written confirmation from Manitoba Infrastructure Highways Design Branch that the existing access from the proposed lot has been brought into compliance as stated in the letter dated April 22nd, 2022. Applicant owner submits written confirmation from Manitoba Hydro that easement agreements have been entered into with Manitoba Hydro with respect to existing and future facilities associated with subdivision and plan of easement as required by the Real Property Act has been provided. Registration of this agreement will be included as a condition of the certificate of approval. Applicant owner obtains all variances for the undersized lot width from Red River Planning District if required. Applicant owner to decide a 30-meter wide riprap buffer along the Red River measured inland from the ordinary high water mark restricting development addressed within the development agreement with the RSA comments in order to help stabilize banks.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Corbis, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next item we have is subdivision file S222958, and that is on Donald Road. And again, there is no requirement for a hearing on this one. So Femi, if you want to go ahead, please.
The subdivision application of S222958 is at the 293 Donald Road, road number 20760. The intent is to subdivide the land into two lots within the AR zoning district. That is subject, that's the subject, it's kind of going back and forth. That's the mapping system that shows the subject side and the existing surrounding area. And that is subdivision map as submitted by the applicant. It shows the proposed lots 1 and 2. And like I said before, the survey side is zone AR, and the site requirement is 4 acres and 198 feet in terms of the site width. The applicant is proposing 2 lots. Proposed lot 1 is 3.007 acres, and the lot width of 687.91 feet. And proposed lot 2 is 2 acres, site width of 4 feet. Lot area variances will be required as a condition if council chooses to approve this subdivision. Plan analysis. Subject proposal is not consistent with the general intent of lot sizes and characters of agricultural reserve area in the development plan. Manitoba Agriculture expressed concern about lot sizes and noted that the subject site should not be subdivided further. Drainage and water licensing drive noted that the applicant be reminded that a valid water right licensing is required to control, construct, establish, and maintain any water control works under the Water Rights Act. This is just the lot sizes comparison. The development plan talks about the fact that if you want to subdivide within the AR zone, that the laws that you're creating must be consistent in terms of character, in terms of size, with some other laws along the same road. And this is not what the applicant is proposing does not mean that intent. This slide here just kind of shows what the applicant is proposing. These are the other lots around it in terms of size. And the reason why the RRPD is saying that it should be rejected.
Femi, the lots right across the road from it are all 2 acres.
Yeah.
They were approved by RRPD.
Yeah, so that report was a rejection report, but the council approved it anyways. So in line with our recommendation, in line with our policies, we're making the same, making the same recommendation.
You're making the same recommendation.
So
even though now that they've been approved, they go against, they fall within the policy.
So I spoke with the applicant. The decision is that of council to make tonight. Whether if you guys think that because you already have the precedent that you created, whether this one meets it, it's council's prerogative to decide on that tonight. But in terms of policy, in terms of whether it meets the intent of the policy, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, so again, there is no public hearing for this one, so if we want to deal with it, if Deepak could please read the resolution.
Yes, and I've got 6 minutes, yes.
Yeah.
Have to do another extension. Re-subdivision application S-22-2958, proposal of landmark planning and design to subdivide lot 2, plat 45252. Resolved that council approve the said application subject to the following condition. Applicant owner submits confirmation in writing to the chief administrative officer of the municipality that A, taxes to the land subdivided to the current year and any arrears be paid. B, development levies to be paid as per bylaw 14/2009. C, provide a digital copy of the plan of subdivision to the RMSA commence. 2, applicant owner obtain variances for undersized lots. 3, applicant owner submits written confirmation from Shaw Cable that easement agreements have been entered into with Shaw Cable.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strange, Councillor Bazarowitz seconds. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the zoning text amendment to the East Selkirk secondary plan, I guess, is the next on the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'm requesting that we do a resolution to extend because we will not get through all those items in the next few minutes.
Let's just leave this one, let's pass it on to the next meeting.
Yeah, let's make it for
So,
an hour,
Michelle.
just to be safe.
No.
Well, you don't have to use it if it's.
It's like a boring
Yeah,
one.
why do another one in another half? You just make it.
We can't do another one, we're only allowed to do extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so make it for an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different.
Resolve the meeting be extended to 12:30 a.m.
Can I have a
Working in a day.
Councillor Orvis, Councillor Sutherland seconds. All those in favor? Opposed?
Their order
And that
takeout.
is
Yeah, we
carried.
may have to do a date on that one too.
We're probably gonna run out of time anyway.
No, we're not, because we're not doing committee reports today, so. Okay, the next item on the agenda is second and third reading for zoning bylaw amendment for a text amendment to the East Selkirk secondary plan. And I think we went through this before. Did you have something more that you wanted to say on this one, Femi?
No, except that this policy, like a text amendment, is just to kind of fine tune the existing language to make it more flexible, to make it more consistent.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Resolved that bylaw 7 of 2022 being a bylaw of the RMSA Clements to amend the RMSA Clements East Selkirk secondary plan bylaw 14 of 2012 be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and seeing as there were no objections, we can proceed with third reading, so if we can have that resolution, please.
Resolved bylaw 7 of 2022 being a bylaw of the Arma St. Clements to amend the Arma St. Clements East Selkirk Secondary Plan bylaw 14 of 2012 be read a third time.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbus, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, the next one we have is bylaw number 8 of 2022 to rezone some property from RA, suburban residential, to RS, serviced residential zone. And again, that's for second and third reading.
Resolved bylaw 8 of 2022 being a bylaw of the Arma St. Clements to amend the Arma St. Clements zoning bylaw 5 of 2002 as amended be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Bazarowicz seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And again, this is for third reading, as there were no objections.
Wasn't there one?
There was
Oh, there
person
was
did show up,
one.
but they were against the subdivision as opposed to the bylaw.
Right.
This is,
No.
no, this is just a formality, and aside from that, before the objection can raise to the level of where it can be denied, it has to be either 25 people from the neighborhood or 50% of people that live on the street.
Okay, perfect.
Resolved bylaw 8 of 2022 being a bylaw of the Arma St. Clements to amend the Arma St. Clements zoning bylaw 5 of 2002 as amended be read a third time.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbus, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so Femi, I think you can go home. We're going to be here for
Mr. Doris, I'm going to shut, unless you're wanting to stay on, but we're going to be going into in-camera. So,
Actually, I just wanted to thank all of council for all your hard work. You made one family very happy. Thank you.
Good night.
Nobody else though.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, so let me just stop the recording.
I still have my camera on.
Yeah, you still keep your camera on.
Until we do a big camera, okay?
Recording stopped.
I'm so wonderful. A couple of guys over there are pretty wired. I think that whiskey bottle's coming out.
Go to the star if you want to, it's too late.
Yeah.
The camera's
You
still
enjoy
on.
me or?
No, I said you can go.
Femi, where is your vehicle parked? On the side or in the back? Just come through here then and hit out the back door.
Thank you.
Resolved, council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues, and further be it resolved that all matters discussed are remain confidential as per section 83(1)B of the municipal act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second Councillor Horbus. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Are we still taking?